The Game Schooler Podcast is a weekly audio show that educates new and experienced gamers about the awesomeness of tabletop gaming. In this week's episode, we'll cover Zenith, our game of the week, discuss life after Candyland in the School of Gaming, and wrap it up by revealing our high five games with cars. Welcome to the Game Schooler Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Kotecki, along with my co-host, the esteemed Dr. Michael McCabe. How's it going?
What is happening, Doug? How are you?
I am fantastic. I wish I could say I was rested and relaxed after a vacation.
No, you took a vacation with your family.
But as most vacations go, there are long drives, and I'm thoroughly exhausted.
Yeah. Did you create some good memories?
I believe so, yes.
Good.
Yes.
For your children.
Yeah.
Okay,
a
that's
little
all that
bit of
matters.
everything. We had tears, laughter, joy, sorrow. It all happened.
Did you have to make any insurance claims or call AAA?
Not that I'm aware
Yeah,
of.
and it's a successful car trip, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're in the Midwestern United States, it's not like, oh, we're just going to hop in the car and go to the ocean. No, it would be the equivalent of going from, I don't know, France to Vienna. Like you're in the car for a while, right?
Yeah. Well, I looked online while we were driving at one point.
Not while you were driving.
No.
Your wife was driving. You were looking online. Okay.
I was doing a little bit of work, and I got distracted, as one does. And I looked up to see the amount of hours that we were driving. If we were leaving, like, London, England, how far could we get? And it's a little skewed because,
you got to take the channel.
Yeah, England is an island. But roughly I could get to the western side of Germany in
Easily.
the same distance that I drove. So it was quite the adventure.
Oh, that's good, man. That's good.
So what have you been up to?
Well, I've got a lot to talk about, Doug. I've actually been saving quite a bit for the show. Longtime listeners will know that I travel twice per year for work, and this was one of the times for travel. I was in Orlando for a conference all week, and man, I had a good time. I'm going to talk a lot about what's awesome with gaming, and also, just going to meetups and things like that. But before I do that, that's a little teaser for you. Before I do that, I want to tell you I played Roth, and I talked about it last episode, and just kind of are we in a golden age of solo games? And Roth, WROTH, is designed by Manny Tremblay. We heard all about that upcoming game a few weeks ago, published by Chip Theory Games. Played it solo a handful of times. I am really enjoying that, and so just wanted to share that with our listeners, not my listeners, but with our listeners out there. The listeners. Yeah, I know that game will be up for pre-order soon. Chip Theory usually makes sure that all of their backers get it first, and then they keep their games in stock, so you'll see it out there. It's like $65. It's not a $400 Chip Theory game, and there's a lot of game in the box and a cool little game. The one thing that I'll say to you, Doug, it's got some of those Marco Polo powers, right? Where each faction, you can do it one time per game, or it's persistent, and it's like that's awesome. How do you have that ability? That's incredible. What do you mean you get to deploy a troop instead of taking money? I want that power. What do you mean you get a second move action and you get to hurt somebody on your way through the region? So that is, you could see some Dice Tower in there, right? You could see some, we want this to be fun for families. We want kids to keep coming back to the table. Really see Manny's design and imprint on it, as well as just some gnarly art. So I wanted to share that in a follow-up.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to what's awesome. One of the things that I have that I want to talk about, which I think will dovetail into what you're going to talk about, is...
You don't know what to talk about.
I've got an idea. Before we went on vacation, and both of us did some traveling, we did have a game night a couple of weeks ago, and there was some new players at the table, and I'm always excited introducing games that are new to new people, if that makes sense, where we had somebody that was, plays games, but not a lot of games, and to kind of throw them into the deep end of, why don't we try this game out and try that, and to just see the wheels turning and seeing, this is almost like opening up feel like the Beast opening up the library to Belle, and it's like, whoa, there's more here than I thought, and I just thought that was a really cool experience, and something that I enjoy a lot is basically playing games with new people or people that are new to the hobby.
Yeah. Well, and you're a great teacher of games. I think that helps when you have a setting and a space and the ability to teach. So that was fun. That is fun. I enjoy that too. And that was a good time. That's great. I'm going to take my conversation in a slightly different direction. Similarly to, showing games to new people, I love going to new game groups. And I was fortunate, I hadn't been to Orlando, Florida since 1993, Doug. So the population,
for the Bulls.
And some of this could be wrong because it was like Wikipedia and I was looking it up on the fly. But the population at that time was roughly 800,000 people in the greater Orlando area. Today it's like 2.4 to 2.6 million. So to say that, like, my recollection of Orlando as a 12, 13-year-old kid in Orlando, I was like, man, this is a big city. Holy cow. Anyway, so I went to a meetup on the Monday night down there at a place called Lazy Moon Pizza. Biggest pizza slices I've ever seen in my life. The guy should have told me you shouldn't order two. You should only order one, but that's a different story for a different time.
So the slices were like the population?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was, yes. It was dinner, breakfast, lunch, in that order, for two slices. Getting back to board games. Anytime I go to a meetup, it is a little awkward because I'm new. I'm not from Orlando. And guess what? I look new. I don't look like I'm from Orlando. You know what I mean? When somebody's an outsider. And I do enjoy
pasty in the summer sun.
Well, no, not just that. Not just my overtly whiteness, Doug. Not just that. Not just like, that's a nerdy white dude. No, not that. In addition to that, it's that we haven't seen this guy before. And I've had that the first time I went to Noble Night to play games. We don't know you. And the first game I played was Sequence with partners. And so it was a 3 versus 3 game of Sequence. It's like, this is kind of interesting. I have Sequence. I've been playing this game since I was like 5 years old. We play this game a lot at home. I'd never played it with teams before and had a blast, and I won't go through the full, I played this and then I played this and then I played that. But that was really, when I got home, I told my family about it and I said, hey, I want to play this. And so we did. My wife and I went against our two youngest kiddos. Absolutely destroyed them, and immediately the kids wanted to run it back and play Sequence again. And I was like, there's so many different interesting facets of the hobby. And then, am I good to keep going, or should I pause there and send it back to you?
You're sending it back to nobody.
Okay, and then, other games that we played that night, The Gang, Game of the Week here on the Game Schooler Podcast. Castle Combo, Game of the Week here on the Game Schooler Podcast. Trio, played like 5 games of that. Former Spotlight game before we even had the Spotlight segment here on the Game Schooler Podcast. But then here's the surprise one. And this is where you're going to be like, oh, Michael, I knew you'd like this game. I've been talking to you about this for 5 years. Paolo Mori once designed a game called Via Magica. Doug, do you know what game Via Magica re-implemented?
That would be Augustus.
Yes, one of your favorite games.
Yeah.
So I'm playing Via Magica. I'm having a great time. I even won the first game, and we go to run it back and play it for a second time. I'm like, man, I'm loving this. Oh, I see Noble Knight's got it for $18. Oh, I'm loving it. And I just took a note of the game, and when I got back to the hotel later on that night, and I went to log my play, I was like, Oh man, Doug's gonna love this because Rise of Augustus is one of your favorite games, and I'm not gonna say that I've poo-pooed it, but there's a lot of Paolo Mori games out there, and I like a lot of them. I like most of his games,
Yeah.
So that was a nice little that one. There's always games to discover. Two, there's always games to replay, and three, some of the traditional classic games like Sequence, they still continue to shine in their classics for a reason. So that was my big takeaway from the Monday meetup at the Lazy Moon.
Okay. Well, that sounds awesome. Are we good to move on to the spotlight, or you got more you want to share?
Yeah, I got more that I want to share, but Doug, I think I'm going to save it for next week. I'll tease our day one listeners, people that are always listening to the Friday Drops. I did happen to go to Dice Tower East. However, I crashed the convention a day early because I had to fly back home the day that it started. So I was the only person not picking up their lanyard on Tuesday. So I'll talk more about that next week, and I think I'll hold from there. Otherwise, we'll have like a 3-hour show.
All right. Well, our spotlight this week, speaking of classic games and ones that may have been forgotten or overlooked, and that is Balderdash, which came out in 1984. The current publisher is Mattel, and the designers are Laura Robinson and Paul Toyne. It is 2 to 6 players. They say 60 minutes, which could be a bit of a stretch depending on how long it goes, but it is a party game. And in it, you get ready to weave a web of hilarious lies in a whirlwind of wit and deception. In Balderdash, you're a sly wordsmith crafting fake answers to obscure trivia questions to fool your friends and claim victory points in this classic party game of twisting truths. Each player starts with a pencil, answer sheet, and a knack for bluffing. One player, the Balderdasher, rolls a die to pick a category: people, words, initials, movies, or laws, and reads a bizarre prompt like, "What does flapdoodle mean?" or "Who is Alfred West?" Everyone writes a fake answer hoping to sound convincing, while the Balderdasher records the real one from the clue card. All answers are read aloud, and players vote for what they think is true. Score 2 points for guessing the correct answer, 1 point for each player who picks your fake answer, and 3 points for the Balderdasher if no one guesses right. Move your pawn on the board 1 space per point. The game ends when the player's pawn reaches the finish line, crowning them the master bluffer. Can you spin the most believable Balderdash, or will your bluff sound as hokey as the claims on a late-night infomercial? So that is how you play Balderdash.
Great overview, Doug.
I think it is one that, similar to what you're talking about with Sequence, it's like there's a whole section of games. There'll be one in my high five that people, I think, just look at and say, well, it's been around for a while. I've played that. That's it is what it is. And it's like, they're still great games.
Yeah.
And we played this one not too long ago, and it's fun and it's hilarious to play.
We played it a few times. I think we reviewed it to put it through its paces, and then we played it with our wives, and some of our kiddos just jumped into the table too and started playing, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it works with large groups, and it works with a wide range of ages. So if it's one that maybe you've played in the past and it was fun, I think it is one to bring out again.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Mattel version that's come out in the last few years is solid. I don't know if you picked yours up at Barnes & Noble, but I know that Barnes & Noble seems to have it on perpetual clearance about 2 or 3 times a year. And so just make a note of that. Gamers, if you have a Barnes & Noble in your area, you can probably pick this up for like $15 at some point. Great party game, great weeknight game to play with the family. And I'll tell you what I also enjoy about Balderdash. Fantastic age range. You can play this with, if you've got a family range where you're like 9 to 17, or if you've even got that 6 or 7-year-old and some teenagers, you can have kids partner up with a parent and go to work and team up and play some Balderdash and have a lot of fun. Similar to Hive Mind and other games that we've talked about before. I don't think it's an extensive house rule. It's just join up and start answering some questions and see who can be the most creative and have some fun here.
Yeah. I love trying to craft a definition that's horribly mundane and quirky at the same time, right? Because that's a lot of times the correct answers are actually sometimes the real answers can be more extreme or wild than what people put down on the list. And so sometimes you can get away with a boring answer that's just like, it's the end of a ballpoint pen. People are like, oh, that seems plausible. And then you find out it's like, it's a monkey scratching its own hair. And it's like, whoa, okay, that's bizarre. I would not have guessed that. And I love that wildness. So it gives you opportunities to have fun and just throw stuff out there. And it's always interesting to see what people latch onto, because there's a discussion, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's that. No, that's crazy. It couldn't possibly be that. And then every once in a while, there's one where you happen to know it, and that can be funny as well.
Yeah, and I have a confession to make, Doug. I was a younger brother. Some would say can be a trickster figure. I don't do pranks like people do on YouTube to get clicks and things like that. But one thing that I enjoy more than I probably should about Balderdash is that opportunity in a game where I'm going to get people to think that Doug provided this answer so that they are then directed away, like planting it in an early round to try to get 2 or 3 wins later. So some of that double think that can come up of
You're taking Balderdash way too seriously.
Well, no, but it allows for some of that, and some of that diabolicalness, some of that cleverness that can come out, that it might only be diabolical or clever to me, but I love that feeling that Balderdash, gestures, hive mind, some of those party type games allow you to feel. We talked about How Dare You in a few episodes back, and it's very similar to that, where I can put on different masks as a gamer depending on how I feel and really adjust to the play group. I'm not going to do that with everybody, right? If I'm playing the game with a bunch of other people's kids, I'm not going to go into that mode and try to get tears in the classroom, unless it's April and I'm really tired of the group of kids. But I do like that about Balderdash.
All right, so here I'm going to put you on the spot, Michael. What is a flapdoodle? What is flapdoodle?
Yeah, you want the real answer or the made-up answer?
I
to try
know
to throw
you know
people
it.
Off? Yeah, it's that area right below your targus that is there, to protect the outer ear slightly. There might be a more concise definition, but why don't you tell our listeners what flapdoodle is?
I think what you're talking about is a lot of flapdoodle, which is nonsense.
Okay, now give me the definition. What's that traced to? Like 1700s?
No
Britain?
idea.
Okay.
Doesn't say. Would you care to know who Alfred West is? Do you know who that guy is?
Yeah, it's Adam West's second cousin who appeared in the 3rd season of Batman and then went on to help create the animated Batman series.
I believe you're right. Yeah, we'll just leave it there. No, it's actually a man known to be able to split a human hair into 17 different pieces.
That's an Alfred West?
Yeah, thanks, Alfred West, for accomplishing that. It's very remarkable of you. So give Balderdash a try and don't sleep on it if you kind of dismiss it as, oh, that's an older game. So that's our Spotlight game this week. Before we move on to the game of the week, I want to remind everybody to watch, subscribe, and like the YouTube channel. Spread the word about the podcast and leave a review on the platform of your choice. And if you have comments or questions, reach out to us. Email at gameschooler.com. We would love to hear from you. Now, let's move on to the game of the week.
The game of the week. The game of the week is an in-depth look at a family-friendly game we think you should try if you get the chance. This week's game is brand new. It's Zenith, designed by Gregory Jard and Matthew Rousseau, art by Nadi, published by Playpunk, a 2025 release, playtime of around a half hour. The range on Board Game Geek is 25 to 35 minutes. 2 to 4 players, ages 12 plus. Doug is going to give us the overview.
In a distant future, the solar system hums with tensions as humans, robots, and animods vie for galactic supremacy. In Zenith, you are a cagey diplomat wielding multi-use cards to sway 5 planets and seize control of the intergalactic Senate. Can you outmaneuver your rival to claim the stars? Each player starts with 4 cards, 12 credits, and 1 Zenithium, and a tech marker on 3 technology tracks. On your turn, you'll play 1 card from your hand to take one of 3 possible actions: recruit an agent, develop a technology, or become a leader. When you recruit an agent, you pay the credit cost and place the card on your side of the board in front of the corresponding planet. You then resolve actions on the card from left to right. In addition, each previously played agent in the same column decreases the credit cost to recruit an agent by 1. This action allows you to move influence discs closer to your control and activate game-changing abilities. When a player pushes an influence disc off their side of the board, it is added to the diplomacy board. You can also advance a faction technology. You can also advance on the faction's technology track by spending Zenithium and discarding a card of the corresponding faction for powerful effects like moving influence discs or gaining cards. And lastly, you can discard a card to claim or upgrade the leader badge and gain bonus credits, Zenithium, or cards, depending on the faction type discarded. At the end of your turn, you'll draw back up to 4 cards unless you have the leader badge. In that case, your hand limit increases to 5 or 6 cards. The game ends when a player achieves one of 3 victory conditions: absolute victory, which occurs when a player adds 3 influence discs from the same planet to their diplomacy board. Democratic victory is when a player acquires influence discs from 4 strictly different planets. Or a popular victory by gaining 5 influence discs from any planets. The tug-of-war tracks create constant tension. Pull a planet's disc to your side to claim it, but your opponent can tug it back. The game can be played as a 2-player game or as a 4-player game in teams. So, can you unite the solar system under your banner, or will your ambitions crash like a misfired rocket? Whew.
You got through it, Doug. That was an awesome overview.
Barely. So that is how you play Zenith. It is basically a board between 2 players on either side with 5 tracks. It is a tug of war pulling the planet's influence one to your side of the board, hopefully. If you move it enough spaces, it falls off, and then you get to claim that as your own influence on your way to victory. What do you like about this one, Michael?
I don't want to just do comparisons to another game that this company published, but what I like about this one is that Playpunk has developed and designed another hit. This, similar to Captain Flip, the first game that this company published that we played, ran it back, played, ran it back, played, ran it back. Clearly a game of the week. Let's talk about it. I had the same feeling with Zenith. I felt like it was a little bit more towards that light hobby level, though, where I needed a little bit more comprehension to know how the combos worked, especially with those 3 win conditions. I love this game, Doug.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, really, really enjoyed the play, the flow, the rhythm, the decisions. There were extremely limited downtime because the turns are so fast. I felt, similar to Castle Combo, which was the game of the week that Gregory Grard has designed, just figuring out how one turn can link to another turn to give me a little bit of awesomeness. And if I can win on the margins in awesomeness, I'm going to be close to ahead at the end of the game. And at the same time, I'm not just doing a spreadsheet, Doug. I'm having a lot of fun playing the game.
Yeah.
Manipulating that board state is similar to Castle Combo with manipulating the card that I purchase is going to, there's that little bit of, it's going to send them up or bring them down. There, like just how the board is constantly maneuvering slightly. It's not a big swing, but I always have to pay attention to every turn because it's shifting what's happening.
Yeah. I think this game does 2 things that I really, really like. One is it's a fun back and forth tug of war game in which you are doing stuff that is throwing off your opponents, in the idea of like, you play a card and move a disc, and I can play a card and move it right back. However, it never seems mean. So it's a very confrontational game that I never feel like attacked or like I'm getting slammed or beat down on, which I think is a great quality, because usually some of those games I'm like, not for me. I don't mind conflict, but sometimes they can get mean where it's like, oh, I just set up this awesome turn and you destroyed it. There's nothing that earth-shattering in it, I felt. But the thing that I really, piggybacks with that is that you always want to do more than you can.
Yeah.
In the best possible way. You want to be involved in everything. And it's like, I want that leader badge because I want more cards. I want to increase my technology so I can take the bonus actions. But I need to play this card to keep my opponent from gaining that influence disc. So it's always pulling you of, can I afford to do that? Like, what's my best action now? Because sometimes you have this hand and you're like, oh, I want to play this card down and that card down. And then you do something and it's like, I can't play those cards down right now. I need to do this. Or it's like he's getting an advantage because he's got the leader badge. And it's like, I don't even really need it, but I just want to get it out of his hands so I can have some more cards and he can have less.
Yeah.
And those decisions is just a great decision space.
I also love the hidden information, right? You can be pushing an advantage on a specific chip. And multiple times in different games that we played, I can remember thinking, I'm going to let Doug push that advantage for now for two different reasons. One, because either I had a card in my hand that could completely pull that chip back, or two, there were times where I wanted the chip to fall off the table so that it could reset, so that I could start over and then really run it back towards my end.
Yeah.
Different type of decision space than a shot and totten or another tug of war game where things are going back and forth and you're battling and it doesn't feel mean, but there's still some fun tension there.
Yeah.
And we did not play the game with partners. So I intentionally talked about my experience with Sequence in the front end of the segment with playing with partners, because now I wonder what this game would be like if my wife and I are on the same team playing against two of our kids, or if my youngest and I are on a team playing against my wife and middle child or older child. I could see those team dynamics really shifting and giving this game life in a way that you would typically need to have by adding an expansion. I think just adding that other mode in of partners instead of two-player back and forth would do a lot for this.
Yeah, well, and just a brief explanation on the team version is that there are 5 planets that you're vying over. When you're playing in a team game, Earth is right in the middle on the game board. Both of you have access, both teammates have access to Earth, but otherwise you can only move the 2 planets that are on your side.
Yep.
And so grabbing that leader badge also allows you to swap cards with your teammates to help get the cards that they need, that they can then function the way that they want.
But the win conditions otherwise are all the same, right?
Are all the same.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I really enjoy about this game, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on it, was I liked that. So you start this game with 12 credits, all right? And that's pretty much enough credits, I believe, to play the most powerful cards in the entire deck right out of the gate. And I like that the game allows you to do that, because you can come out of the gate swinging and are not necessarily forced to ramp up. There's no, okay, well, you start with 2 credits, which allows you to play this one card, and then you have to use your discounts to then and do that. And it's like, there was one game that we played where I think you came out of the gate with like a 10 credit card, and those are the most powerful cards. So you, in some ways, you can kind of do an expensive card like that is usually allowing you to do 3 or 4 things.
Yeah.
Compared to another card that is cheaper, that's only like one
Give you
thing.
one or possibly 2. Yeah.
So it's like you're able to play that card out early, which then maybe you're going to have a couple more build out turns after that. And so I like that they give you enough to do that. It doesn't have a ramp up, and it's a conscious choice that you can choose. I'm going to go big right out of the gate, or I'm going to use those discounts and then do a 10-pointer later, but it's only going to cost me 3 credits because I've got so many built up in that column. So it's not scripted in a way that it's like, well, here's the things that you need to do for the first 10 turns, and everybody's kind of doing the same thing to build up. It's not the case in this game, which I think is what really makes it dynamic.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think I know there's 2 designers on the game, so I'm not trying to ignore one of them. All right, but Greg Regard, the one designer, I mean, in the footsteps of Darwin, Castle Combo. There's a 3rd game I saw on his game list that we've had as a game of the week here, where he's been on the co-design, and I just think that designer's doing interesting things with combinations and currency that work really well for our audience, work really well for people that want to play at that family game level or that family plus level. And I think that's a good point you made about having that currency, but once it's spent, you got to figure out a way to replenish it. So yeah, I can get the 10-point card down right away and get 3 or 4 of those awesome combos, but then you're able to play 2 or 3 cards out and pull on 3 of the tracks, and I can't do anything about it. So the balance in the game, I had a very similar feeling with Zenith that I've had with, and I've played a lot of Castle Combo lately, folks, so I'm sorry that I keep referencing that, but that sense of in Castle Combo, you have a 3x3 grid, and so you're getting 9 total turns. That's it. And in Zenith, similar playtime too, right? Roughly about a half hour. And in Zenith, you have the 5 tracks and the 3 win conditions. And once you see it, it's like, it's a pretty tight play space, Doug. You know what your parameters and constraints are, especially going into that 2nd and 3rd game. But yet the possibilities are so wide open at the start. You can. How many cards do you have in your hand to start?
4.
4, yeah, and it's just great possibilities of play there.
All right, well, as far as production, I think the artwork, the discs, the Zenithium are all well done, amazing, and this is this is going to be so first world problems. But with how nice the discs are and everything else, I would have loved upgraded credits. Like, if they had metal credit coins in here, it's completely unnecessary. But, like, it is the one thing where it's like the board, the artwork, the chords, the cards, and all of the tokens. Like, that's the only cardboard chips are the credits in the game. I mean, even if they had used whatever the recycled wood thing that some of the other tokens are, would have just been like, yes, this is a complete deluxe game. And I'm not saying that it's detrimental to it whatsoever, or that I need it and I can't enjoy the game without it. But it was just that one thing where I'm like, man, if that really had that would really put this game over the top as far as production is concerned.
Yeah, I don't have an argument with that, other than
it's completely frivolous and
we're spoiled.
Unnecessary.
I'm spoiled. The thing that struck me about it is speaking of spoiled, we do get review copies. We play a lot of games. Just, I don't want to say buyer beware, but this is a $40 game, MSRP. Yeah. And we don't often talk about price, but you just want to know that this is one that I would just suggest get a play at a friendly local game store if they have a demo day. Play a friend's copy. I do know that if I got this in my house, I would definitely get the $40 out of it over 2 or 3 years. This is a game, it only requires one other human to fall in love with it, and you can get it up and running and get an awesome play or 2 in an hour.
Yeah.
I thought the production was fine. I thought the chips were fine.
100%.
Yeah. No. Hey, Doug, have your critiques. You're good. I'm just saying, like, from where I sit.
Critique. It's not a critique. That's my point. Is it's not necessarily a critique. It's
then
like,
I'll own my critique. Here's prices of games have gone up. And this was one where I noticed it because in my, I played the game, played it at your house, so right away I went and looked at the price. What would it cost for me? Oh, I'm not doing that today. And it's just one of those things. I also don't think that that's a bad thing. I want great games to be made. I want people to get paid for their games. Playpunk is not churning out 15 titles a year, right? They did one last year with Captain Flip. They did Zenith so far this year. This is a winner. That was just my only thing of statement of fact. Prices of board games have gone up. And then secondary opinion, not fact, but that might not always be a bad thing.
No.
So,
and in my regard, it's one of those things where it's like, I probably don't even want that as an increase to the base game. I'd love it if they had the kind of the option of here's $15, $20. You can buy metal credits as an add-on for the people that would want something like that.
Yeah, you're referring to like the opted with Gnome Hollow where you could get the deluxe. But yeah, that's a great idea.
So something along those lines where it's like, it's one component away from feeling like that.
Gotcha.
Wow, this is super deluxe for what I'm getting. And I'm not saying that I would if the retail price jumped up to $60, I'd be like, nah, it's not worth it. But for the people that do want it, it would really make that whole kind of experience pretty cool. As far as things to be aware of, there are a lot of icons in this game. And the first playthrough, you are going to have some time in a rule book. It becomes more intuitive as you go along. The one thing that really kind of frustrated me a little bit until you get used to it, and it is what it is that a lot of the examples in the reference sheet and in the rule book are not one-to-one examples where to give you the conversion and say, well, when there's this symbol between the two, it means this, but that may not be the exact symbols that are on your card. So then you have to kind of decipher. There's not a straight one-to-one. This is the icons on this card. Look it up. This will tell you exactly what it'll do. You then have to go and say, okay, looks like the icon that's on mine. And now I have to see how it's different and what cards or Zenithium or whatever it's manipulating based on what it says. So I thought that was like just a step too far. That was a little bit. I haven't seen that a lot, quite frankly. You usually see there's either like a giant card list for every card in the game or every icon in the game, or the symbols, and each symbol says what it does. But this one, it was like I'd read the card on the icon sheet, and I'd read what it says, and then I'd look at my card and be like, oh wait, no, that's not that's not the icon that mine has. And then I'd look on the sheet to see if my icons were there, and then it was like, oh wait, no, there's not. And then you have to go back to the first one. You're like, oh, it's this, but it's just different conversions. They're swapping out A's for B's and B's for C's type of thing. So that was a little bit frustrating, but certainly not to the detriment of how fun and engaging the game is.
Yeah, my only buyer beware critique is from actually a learner's perspective. I am known to be a fool's fool from time to time. I am known to think that I heard and understand what was said, but then it's not till 2/3 of the way through the game where it's repeated to me for the 4th time and I get that moment of pain. There's 3 win conditions, folks. So as people are learning the game, just that first teaching and learning game, there could be some pain from at least one person at the table. That is not on the person teaching the game. That is really on that's just part of learning board games.
Yeah.
I mistook the democratic victory. So I gained my 4th influence disc and I thought, okay, there we go. Got the win. And they weren't 4 different. 2 of the discs were actually common. And so it's like, oh, and it felt like a punch in the stomach. And then when I see it as it's written and I know how Doug taught it and Doug taught it correctly, I didn't learn it properly. That's just that first teaching and learning game. If you're running this at a board game store, if you're running this at a meetup or even with your game group, if there's 4 people at the table, somebody's likely going to have the experience that I did. And part of that, I think, also comes down to what Doug just talked about. There is a ton of iconography. So you're learning on multiple ends, right? I'm looking at the cards. I'm thinking about my first play. Yeah, I get it. There's 3 win conditions. I've played a lot of board games. Let's go. Let's play. And then it's like, oh, those are 3 very different win conditions. 3 of the same discs, 4 different discs, or 5 total discs. And so for me, there was just something in the learning of it that I had to get a little bit of pain to actually get the game down, but I got it down now. Go ahead.
No, that's awesome. What kind of skills you got for this one, Michael?
Well, I've got a ton of skills. The first one is comprehension. And this, you really have to know, Doug mentioned it with the iconography, but just understanding how some of those bonuses work together and lead towards the victory condition. It's one thing to just have fun playing a card down and moving some discs around, but then when you really comprehend what happens when a disc falls off the board and you see where it gets placed and how that that matters towards victory. That's the first skill that I have that I think improves with repeated plays and improves throughout the first game, just when you get those moments of seeing how the levers fit together. But definitely another reason why I think it's at that 12 plus is the right age, whereas a Captain Flip, I think we had it like, 6-year-olds could play this. For Play Punk, this is definitely a step up from that, and you need some comprehension. You?
Yeah. I think one of the ones I actually enjoy in this game, and I think you do get better, again, with repeat plays, is risk management, which is a game in which players must identify and evaluate, prioritize options to reduce the impact of unfortunate events or risks. And in some ways, it's not. There's part of it that's like, risks. A lot of times you think about risk, you're like, okay, what sort of calamity or bad thing can happen? And it's like, it's not necessarily that all the time. It's just, can I allow him to keep moving that disc closer? Is there a way I can get it back? Should I worry about getting it back? Or should I go and kind of work on my own plan? It's kind of that, the risk management in this one is kind of like offense, defense, and making the decision on when I need to be a defender and when I need to be on offense. And I think the more you play the game, you see where those opportunities are to strike and where the opportunities are to hold back.
Yeah, and so you're saying there's also a risk of being too conservative because then somebody else can push ahead. Like the risk is on multiple ends, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And it'd be interesting. I haven't played this with kids a whole lot, and it would be interesting to see how that works with some of the younger kiddos. The other skill that I have that I think shines in this game is resilience, a game that teaches players how to quickly recover from and cope with difficulties. You might have a plan. I know how I'm going to move this red disc over here, and it'll give me my 3rd red disc for victory. And then all of a sudden you do buy a 12-point card and all this. There's nothing I can do. I'm not going to move that back. I thought it was going to be sitting within 1 space from victory for me, and now it is right in the middle, and there's nothing I can do. And as an adult gamer, somebody who's in the hobby, quote unquote, plays a lot of board games, I think that's a skill that we just take for granted, and there's a general kindness in the hobby of, we'll just keep going. But playing with younger gamers, playing with people who might be playing board games for the first time, that resilience is something that I think really shines in this game.
Yeah, the next skill that I have kind of lines up with that, and that's the competition. And I think this one, and competition we talk about is developing healthy competitive habits. And I think in this one it works. I had mentioned one of the things I enjoy about the game is that it never feels mean, but it feels like you're attacking and going after each other. And one of the things I like about this as a competition is sometimes when you play a game with younger kids or kids in general, and there's take that elements and that kind of back and forth, it can be really easy for a kid or an adult to throw down a card and celebrate and kind of do the in your face and laugh about it. And it's great and all that type of thing, which I would argue is probably not healthy competitive habits. This one, in your response to resiliency, if you do that, there's probably a pretty good chance that something is coming right back at you, so you don't really have time to do that.
Yeah.
There's not enough time to gloat about a good move because you have no idea what's coming back in your direction, which I think is what makes it a great competitive game, is that I can have a card that plays and moves all the discs at one time, and I think it's a hot shot move, and it's like, yeah, and I could really puff up my chest about it. And then the next turn, Michael can play a card that almost moves one of those chips all the way off the end to his on his side. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess my move wasn't that great type of thing. And so that checks and balances with getting out of control with the competition is what really sets this game apart for me, and I think it's a great game for competition and why it doesn't feel mean while it's happening, because you have a cool move right back at it.
And the end is tight. I mean, I think if people play this game, you're not going to just get the 3-0 win. You're not just going to race ahead and nobody's going to look back.
Yeah.
So that part of the competition and the resilience I really like.
Yeah.
I don't mind a little bit of celebration as long as I can take the heat when I lose close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's really good.
Well, and especially because that moving three of them to one side requires a lot of cards of the same color, which you're just not getting. It's hard to kind of maneuver that well, which I think is just a testament of how well the game is balanced.
I do want to say just a couple other things about the game to clean up before we move on, if that's okay, Doug.
Sure.
The game is available on Board Game Arena. I wanted to double check because I wasn't sure about the popularity and kind of the viability. Is it in alpha? Is it in beta? No, this has had 90,000 games played on Board Game Arena by the time this episode drops. And then the co-designer was also the co-designer on Castle Combo. So sometimes that first person in the alphabet does get all the credit, but that Matthew Rousseau, the co-designer of this game, was also in on that one as well. So I just want to clean those two things up before we move on. It plays well on Board Game Arena, but I will say there's something about that tension of playing it at the table, that back and forth that misses, for me at least, in that 2D on a screen, playing on my phone, playing on a laptop. I really love how this thing sits on the table.
All right. What are your final thoughts, Michael?
Oh, I just gave them. Sorry. Send it back to you.
All right. I mean, I think Zenith is a great back and forth that provides crunchy decisions that are usually reserved for a longer and more complex game. I felt very satisfied in the decisions I was making in a 30-minute game. And I think that's probably one of the reasons, and especially for in a two-player, playing that as a two-player game, sometimes a lot of two-player games seem to have just like, it's kind of back and forth, and it's cards, and they're kind of simple, and you don't really get that crunchy kind of game feel. And this one packs that in not only a small play time, a short play time, but in low player count and works really well. And there's no surprise to me that it ended up on the Kenner Spiel des Jahres recommended list. So that is our game of the week, Zenith from Playpunk.
The School of Gaming. In the School of Gaming, we discuss concepts, keywords, etiquette, and helpful ideas in the world of gaming. This week, we discuss life after Candyland. This is a segment where we will talk about a mass market game and then talk about some other games that might be a nice progression to it. Doug, lead us into this segment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important when you look at these to kind of break it down into two parts, is kind of what categories or what type of game is it, but also what do we like about the original game, if anything. But this is a children's game. It's a racing style game. Are there things or aspects that you like about Candyland, or that you think are a good learning tool for younger players to begin with?
Yes. What are they? This game's everywhere. This game is in my ma's closet. It's in Abuelita's closet. Both grandmas have it. Like, this game is in schools. This game is in daycares. This is a game that for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, you can sit down, hit the spinner, roll the die, and you're playing. So I think just the ubiquitous nature of Candyland is something.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a great level of learning colors and numbers. Well, not necessarily numbers.
No, count bys. But, no, I think you got it right there.
Well, not really. I mean, you're
pushing
flipping
forward.
over but you're not necessarily counting your spaces. You flip over a card that says green. You just move to the next green space. There's no dice. There's no spinner. There's nothing outside of flip over a card and see what happens. I think the things that I like about it are certainly the color recognition, but the kind of the art and the world is another aspect that I think is one of the things that makes it engaging to people. They're like, oh, we're in a world of candy and chocolate. So I think kids like it based on that. I mean, for me, I kind of broke down my other alternate game selections based on kind of the candy and pastries theme, the art style of the fluffy cartoony type of thing, and then just like the core main mechanisms of card selection.
Roll and move, flip and move. Yeah.
So what kind of game selections do you think are good follow-ups? What would you recommend after Candyland?
So I have really had to divorce myself from this game to get into this segment. All right. I have hated Candyland for 40 plus years. This is one of the games that I can remember playing and being like, no, you got the purple. I know I moved it to purple. That's blue. You got the blue. I know I moved it to blue. That's purple. So, but at the same time.
So trauma from a very different level.
It's not trauma. It's just, lived experience. It's real. At the same time, my kids have loved this game.
Yeah.
And this is a game that, I don't know if it's our copy or one of my relatives' copy, but where the board is split in half and people are putting the board together and we're just going to play. I know in our house, but this is a little bit of a hard turn because we went from the launch of our podcast. My children were little mini reviewers. So we kind of went from, hey, 4-year-old, here's Candyland. Now we're going to play My Little Scythe. So I think that's kind of the top end of the progression with the colors, the characters, the little world building that you can get from Candyland to My Little Scythe in with 2 or 3 games in between.
Yeah.
Some other game, right? Fox type games could be in there, but I want to send it back to you, Doug, because I feel like this is your wheelhouse. What's your progression of games?
Well, I think it goes for me. It depends on the. Certainly, there's a level of. I don't know that there's a linear of here is the next step exactly. To your point, there are in betweens, but I think it's one of those. If you enjoyed it or your kids got a lot out of it, I think there's 3 pathways to go down. And if you're talking about just like a candy, an additional candy or pastry themed game, I think 2 good options are Truffle Shuffle, which is, a math and candy bundling, essentially, or a game that we talked about on the podcast, which is Kim Joy's Magic Bakery.
Yeah.
So if you're, if that's the part that appeals to your kids and you find that, like they love when they get the sweets card, they get to move to that thing or they're talking about that. Kim Joy's Magic Bakery is a cooperative game about baking.
Yeah.
And it's fantastical. It's got good cartoony artwork. So I think that's a really good step up that even in a situation where maybe if they're too young to play it, it's cooperative so you can make it work. So I think those are good ones on that level. If you're talking about art, though, and kind of that cartoon style and just fun to look at, kind of an explosion for the senses. I think a game like Go Nuts for Donuts, which is by Game Right, is another one very similar theme type of, trying to acquire the best pastries. I know one that has gone over well in your house is Sushi Go,
Yep.
which I think that this would be a great step up. But if you're talking about mechanisms or, what you're doing in the game is like, okay, so they get the idea of you draw and you move. What are some other games that do that type of gameplay, have those gameplay elements? And the first one that came to mind for me is Tales and Games, The Hare and the Tortoise, which is also a racing game. And you are choosing cards from your hand to play to get a particular animal to win. And once a certain number of cards are played, it activates all of the animals and they all move. So there's that card selection in the game that's very similar, but you're trying to manipulate the ones that you want to win.
Yeah.
Which would then lead itself directly into a game like Downforce, which, although is a very different theme, still has that idea of I play one card and all of these cars are moving.
Yep, on a
at
track.
one time. Yeah, moving on a track. And then the last game that I have, which is probably the closest straight up gamer version of Candyland, is Cartagena, which is you play a card and you move to the next symbol of the card that you played. And it takes out the randomness. And there are moments where you would want to play a particular. It's not always necessarily about, well, this one lets me move ahead the most. There may be other reasons of why you want to play one card over the other. So those are just some examples of things that I ran down of what might fit in. What are you smirking about, Michael?
Easy, man. I was going to give you some praise and compliment. Doug's dissertation on life after Candyland. That's good. That's really good. I came in with 3 different games in a straight line. Those are some solid games and some thinking that went into that. For me, after Life After Candyland, another mass market game, but Trouble. You got the Pop-O-Matic in the middle, and you're getting some number sense with Trouble that you're not getting in Candyland. You're going to move a little bit, but you get a little bit some similar meanness and take that. If people like Candyland and getting someplace first, Trouble with all the different versions, I think is a game that kids will likely enjoy. I don't know the year. I should have done this in the research. I know growing up, the version of Candyland that I had like a dot, or I don't know what it was, like a syrup spot where you would lose a turn. And I don't think the new versions of Candyland have the lose a turn in it anymore, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't think I'm wrong on that. I think I'm remembering that very clearly, that I would perpetually lose a turn with my blue and purple mistakes.
That or get to the very end, get like 2 turns away from the end, and then draw the very first pastry on the track that you have to go all the way back to.
Yeah. After Trouble, you mentioned Sushi Go. I do think that there is something with the card play in Candyland that some littles really like. You're getting to flip a card, a little bit of discovery. Ooh, I go here, I go there. And that might work for 3 or 4 year olds, but when you get to that 6, 7, 8 year old, they're like, I don't want to play Candyland. I want to play something different. Well, Sushi Go is awesome because you're getting the cards, you're getting to pass them around, you're getting to put them out in front of you. And a little bit more interaction even than Candyland. We're not just all watching one pile. We're passing the cards. 1, 2, 3, Sushi Go. And then I talked at the beginning of the segment, kind of that end, not that everything has to go into the hobby, but My Little Scythe is a game that if you want life after Candyland and see what's out there and look at a well-designed game that is still beautiful, that's kind of the end of the progression for me. So not a dissertation like you brought. Mine was more just some other possibilities and places you can go. And My Little Scythe would not work for that 3 or 4 year old. It's more for like, if we're playing Candyland with the youngest, well, what's the oldest gamer want to play after the youngest has gone to bed? I think that's the one that can come off the shelf, get down, and have a good time.
And I think the other one that really works well, although I don't have a bunch of experience with, but I think a lot of people would recommend it, is Monza. So if you're looking for something that's very adjacent to Candyland, but gives you a little bit more agency.
I still haven't played that yet.
Still a kid's game. It's a hobby game. But I think a lot of people would recommend that. And maybe that's not a life after Candyland. It's a life with Candyland or life replacing Candyland, that a game like Monza might be a good fit. So let us know in the Discord if there's other suggestions that you would have for gamers that, like Michael said, Candyland is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. And a lot of people, even though it's not the stellar example of fine hobby gaming, it seems to end up in a bunch of households. So what games would you recommend as the next steps after playing Candyland? We'd love to hear from you. Every week, Michael and I highlight a list of games we want to play, enjoy, or spread the word about. And
That's
everyone
227 weeks, Doug. Sorry to interrupt. Back to you.
Of what? Of lists?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot. This week, we're taking a look at our favorite games with cars. So not necessarily racing games, but where cars have a strong element in it. Now, I do have some racing games, but I did try really hard to put some other ones on the list that I thought were, had a standout car element to it. What do you got for number 5? Or any struggles for you?
No, not at all. In fact, you can probably predict 4 out of my 5. I think there'll be one big surprise on my list for you, but it's games I've talked about before. There's kind of a clear cutoff. How about you? Any struggle, or you just talked about your caveats?
A little bit. I mean, as I was going through it, there was games where it's like I know you have played some games that I have not,
and vice versa.
That are but that are car themed. I was looking at stuff with automobiles, and it's like, oh, Michael's played that, but I haven't, or I have no interest in it. There is one game that I really do want to play, and have never gotten a chance to yet. That I'll mention. Well, I doubt you've played it either. So is Automania.
I haven't played that.
Is kind of more of a family weight car building game.
Yeah.
And building and making and selling cars that I would love to play, but just have not gotten around to it.
My number 5 is a hobby level car building game called Motor City. And this is designed by Adam Hill, Ben Pinchback, and Matt Riddle. Published by 25th Century Games, was released in 2023, and in Motor City, it's set in that late 60s, early 70s Detroit, and you are doing all of the phases of building, manufacturing, and selling automobiles. It's a hobby level game in a little roll and write box that there's a ton in there. I still have it. I've got like one play solo and then a couple partial plays just to familiarize myself, because it's one I always want to come back to. I had a ton of fun playing it solo. It's just it is a hobby level roll and write game. So there's just a very narrow audience for that. I think one of the reasons why I haven't played it with you yet is the teach. It's kind of a heavy lift for what you get in the box. Now, that being said, this group knows how to design a game, right? This is the design team that has done River Valley Glassworks. They've done just a ton, Fleet the Dice game and some of those games as well. And I think they designed a darn good game, and they really designed a thematic game here. So I'm glad I have it. I don't want to come off as whiny podcast guy, but one of the downsides of, not downside, but an externality of our show is we've got to kind of move on from games, right? And this one definitely falls into that bucket of, I played it, I liked it, don't quite know when I'm going to be able to come back to it, because I need 5 to 10 hours to really invest in the game to play it more. So I just want to put it out there because I did enjoy my solo play of it. And if somebody is a car person and loves roll and write, man, check out Motor City. And 25th Century does a great job with production. We've talked about that with Chad's games before, and it's a cool little game.
All right, cool. Good choice there. Mine may sound like a stretch at first, and maybe it is.
Your list, Doug.
my list. And that is a game called Police Precinct from 2013 Common Man Games. I believe it's one of Ole Steinus's first games. And in Police Precinct, the reason I put it on the list is everyone is a police officer with their own car. They have their own squad car, which is a token that you can flip over to be an unmarked car, or you can be in your squad car, and you're driving around the city and cleaning up thugs. And one of the cops may be a dirty cop, and it has all that type of stuff. But there is a level of this is me, this is my squad car. You're driving around and just kind of patrolling and racing to a crime scene, or do I want to go into undercover mode and flip my token into an unmarked car, and all of the stuff that kind of comes with that. It really made me think about that game as like, yeah, that is a main hub of where your attention and focus is centered on. So that's why I put it at my number 5, Police Precinct.
Well, that game's new to me. Cool. Number 4 was a game of the week all the way back in episode 34. It is from Restoration Games. It is currently out of print, which there's a little bit of irony in that, isn't it, Doug? The game is called Downforce, and Restoration Games takes older games and brings them out, gives them life. They're new again. I hesitated to put it on my list because it's not readily available. But it's out in the wild. And so that's where I was like, no, I'm going to put it on the list, and it's an awesome game. Downforced, you are auctioning and betting on cars, and you're going to move the cars on the track. And Rob Davio, Justin D. Jacobson, and Wolfgang Kramer designed it. We talked about it at length at episode 34. This is right about the time where we were finding our groove and knew how to actually put a decent show together. So I do encourage you to go back and listen to that. Maybe I'm anticipating it's also on Doug's list, so I'm not going to say a whole lot more about it because we may have some crossover later. If not, when we get to the honorable mentions, I'll tell you a few other things that I really like about it. But the bidding in this game just brings me joy. And again, it's one I desperately want to play again. My last play was on my birthday back in 2020. So coming up on 5 years since my last play of Downforce. Doug, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is a game we talked about in episode 112, and that is Bad Company, where a majority of the game is about building your crew, but part of that crew is getting away from the police. So my first game was about the police. My second game is about evading the police.
I didn't know this was a police car game, Doug.
Yeah, it's my police car list. And on it, you need to keep your car moving to not only keep collecting bonuses throughout the game, but you need to stay ahead of the cop car in order to not score negative points. I can't quite remember what all the penalties are, what the end game triggers and things like that are. But essentially, it's one of those things where you'd rather not move your car unless it's going to give you a bonus, but you kind of have to.
You got to stay ahead of the police there. Yeah.
So it's a very integral part of the game, and I think it is the part of the game that keeps it moving and maybe more interesting to, say, a game like Space Base, where I would kind of qualify it that, like, the idea of, okay, Dominion was the first deck builder, but Clank is a great deck builder that adds a board, and Space Base was a great roll and activate those cards on your turn and other people's turns. And I think Bad Company is that Clank version of that escalates it up, and I think it's because of the added board. So that is my number 4, Bad Company.
What an awesome justification to include on the list. I looked at it. I couldn't have made the case you just made. So I'm giving you credit. I know it sounds like an insult, but really, I thought about putting it on the list, but I'm like, I don't know if the cars are enough on that. And then hearing you talk about it, it's like, yeah, I should have put it on the list and just sent it over to Doug to give the reasons why. But an awesome game. I mean, whatever list you want to put it, wherever you want to put it, you got Cops and Robbers game. The getaway is definitely an essential part of the game that I think adds some levity, lightness, fun, and engagement to it. That's a great pick.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me, I think this is where Doug's going to be surprised, and that's Thunder Road Vendetta, 2023 release, a game that I really liked. Brett Myers is one of the designers on it. He's a local designer, lives in Madison, Wisconsin, and designed just an awesome game that's published by Restoration Games. It's not one I have in my collection anymore, because I don't really have anyone to play it with. And that's just one of those things where, games require a certain fit. I had Thunder Road Vendetta. I had the Maximum Chrome version. I moved on from it simply because it's like, this will belong better in somebody else's house. I think you need 4 people that just want to smash each other. This is not a racing game. This is a demolition game. Good luck making it to the finish line, because somebody else is going to roll something, and that helicopter from the Maximum Chrome edition, that nice shiny one that you added, just blew up your own car. So there's no planning. There's no this is but it's not really a skirmish either. So I don't know where to actually put this game in the game schooler pantheon of games. I enjoyed playing it a lot. I could see myself coming back to it at some point. I just don't know where it would sit on my shelf, and I don't know who I'd play it with. But at the same time, I could see why it won a ton of awards and got a ton of praise. There's some cool smash 'em up stuff happening in there, and I did enjoy my plays of it. So that's number 3 for me, is Thunder Road Vendetta.
Yeah, definitely one that I actually want to go back to, because I think, a lot of times we've talked about this. I think that was a game where that first experience that I had with that game was screwed up by wrong expectations.
Yeah.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, where it's like, that game is not a race game.
No.
It is a survive if you can game. And I think I approached the game as if it were a race game, and that there was a lot more control than there was. And so, one of those things where we've talked about quite a bit about going into a game with the wrong expectations. That was one that I think I went into with the wrong expectations and could be swayed on. So I need to try that one again.
I think I'm going to sign up and play at a GameholeCon. I mean, the designer runs like 5 games at once, 4 games at once on 6 different tables. And so I'm going to throw the $2 down and just approach it fresh,
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about the hobby. You can come back to something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, my number 3, speaking of coming back to something, this is going to be a full circle tie-in to our entire episode, where we are talking about Balderdash in the Spotlight, and we talked about Candyland in the School of Gaming, and in the High Five, I'm going to talk about the Game of Life from 1960. When I see this game, the thing I remember is the car and putting my little people and growing my family. And I have 3 daughters that all love and adore this game and name their characters as they get put in there. And this one's a dog, and this is, all of the stuff that goes along. And there is something magical about just filling up your car and moving it across the map and having good things happen to you and bad things happening to you. And it is the Game of Life. So that's my number 3 from 1960 and currently published by Hasbro.
That is awesome, Doug. I'll leave it at that. No, I'm glad that game has brought so much joy to you and your family.
Some persons of family.
No, for me, the Game of Life is to the Kotecki family what Gestures is to the McCabe family. It's one of those games that, you play it every so often, and you always have a story or 2 after, and everybody had fun playing it, right? And so it's some of them are mass market for a reason. That's great. Number 2 for me is a game that I actually traded and then had trader's remorse, and then I traded to get it again, and that's Autobahn. Fabio Lopiano, Nestor Mangoni. Alley Cat Games is a publisher. Plays one. I thought it was up to 5 players, but Board Game Geek is telling me it's 1 to 4 players. The weight on it is a 4.0. Disclaimer: This is a hand management game played over 2 different phases, where you're building out the Autobahn, and about halfway through the game, the rest of the map opens up because the game is played 3 different phases. If I said 2, I apologize. But the first phase, you're building out the Autobahn over time. And so, you're building out routes and you're trying to pick up and deliver items. It is a hobby level game. But when I see that 4.0, I get scared from playing it again. And I think it's a lot more approachable than where it's listed at on Board Game Geek. But really pretty board. The components in the Kickstarter version are absolutely amazing. You've got these little containers that look like containers, and the cars are just, the pieces are so nice. It's one of those, I've complained about Kickstarter in a lot of ways, and then there are some things where it's like, oh yeah, this is just a nice part of Kickstarter. You get all these little upgraded pieces and they're so thematically tied in. At the end of the day, this is a hand management game that requires you to always be 1 or 2 turns ahead, or otherwise you're going to be in pain. And I enjoy maneuvering the cars around. I enjoy building out the routes in it, and I really enjoy the hand management aspect of it. And folks, I've only played it solo. Again, I talked about it similarly to the first game on my list, which was Motor City. Those hobby level games, it could be tough to get a lift. If I could teach it to myself and I could play it all by myself, and maybe I'll play it at a convention or at a meetup sometime, that's good enough for me. And it's a game that I've enjoyed. So that's my number 2 is Autobahn by Fabio Lopiano and Nestor Mangoni. Same designer of Darwin's Journey, and also a game that's really hot right now, like the hotness, Shackleton Base. And he also helped to design Newton, which is a game that I know Doug enjoys and I haven't gotten to play yet. So that's my number 2 is Autobahn.
All right. My number 2 is Downforce. Michael's number 5, was that? Or 4? 4. I think the thing I really enjoy about this game is, as much as it's a racing game, I love being able to play a card, and I'm not just moving my car. Everybody's car is moving, and the order that they move changes, and the amount that they move changes, and the way that you can manipulate playing a card and then kind of boxing somebody out. And it's like, oh, I moved here, and then, oh, your car gets to move 5 spaces. Where would you like to move it, Michael? Oh, I'm sorry, Michael, it's all boxed in. You can't move anywhere. And then my other car is going to move forward now because it was the one blocking you. Those type of things, I think, is just a phenomenal job as far as one of the early restoration games that came out, showing what they could do with an older title to modernize it and make it work. So that was my number 2, Downforce.
Awesome.
I'm assuming there might be crossover at number 1.
Well, was it the game of the week back in episode 103, Douglas?
It was.
Yes. Let's talk about Heat Pedal to the Metal, designed by Asger Harding Granerud, Daniel Skold Peterson, art by Vincent Dutray, published by Days of Wonder. If that sounds familiar, that whole design, art, and publishing house also did a game called Deep Blue, which the Game Schooler podcast is big fans of. But in Heat Pedal to the Metal, you're racing around the track. Talk about hand management, right?
Yeah.
What do you need to manage in Heat, Doug?
Your heat.
Your heat, yes. Don't go into that corner too sharply, or you will spin out. If you spin out once a game early in the game, you might have a chance. If you spin out a second or third time, you're getting lapped. So what do you like about Heat, Doug? Why is it your favorite car game?
I think just the amount of, similar to what we were talking about with Thunder Road. It's like, it's almost what I was expecting in Thunder Road, which is that control. You have the control on how your car works, and there's a little bit of luck and the deck building and how it all plays out, and you're hoping that you get the cards to move the way that you want to move. But there's also that level of chaos in it that there's not a lot of racing games that handle kind of a runaway leader type of situation where it's like, well, you get ahead, you're playing better, you're going to win. That guy's ahead. And in this game, the amount of times that I've seen somebody come from last place to first or second place and eke it out, or two cars being neck and neck and one wins and the other one doesn't, obviously, but that closeness throughout the race and the way that it can kind of swing, and it's like, oh, I had a really good, I made that corner perfectly. I'm set up to get on the straightaway, and just that type of back and forth that happens in that game without feeling like it's chaos.
Yeah.
The little special abilities, I think it just works so well.
It does. It really does. And those abilities, and even to the point where you get the even turns. It's been a while since I've played, but if I'm recalling correctly,
oh yeah,
you get the even turns. So I might be the first one past the finish line, but if somebody, not the next person, you got to look for the last person. If you're playing a 3-player game, that last person might have been noticing that you were going to go past the finish line, but they play the perfect set of cards right at the end, maximize their drift, and somehow slide past you for the win. The tension in the game is what makes it for me. As I'm trying to build my way around the track for the first time and just get around, it's that tension all the way to the end. And I never seem to quite have enough heat, but I'm in first, and the game works well for my brain and how I like to play board games. Yeah. And the take that's in there, it's unpredictable. That drift, how did you get there and just close that off? I didn't know you were going to be able to do that. Yeah. It is my favorite card game.
Yeah, it's a great one. My couple of honorable mentions.
Before we move on from Heat, do you have any interest in the expansions, or is there just enough in that base box for you?
I'm not interested in the expansions just because I don't feel like I will ever get them played. It's like I'm not opposed to them. There's nothing where I'm like, oh, I don't like what they're doing or anything like that. It's just one of those things where it's like, there's enough in the base game, and I'm not playing the base game enough to warrant
so much in the base game
needing more. Like
I want the expansions in case I like them because of how expansions go with Days of Wonder. It's not to be a completionist, but this is a fear of missing out. That is a legitimate fear of missing out, not just in staying up on the hotness but it's like, well, what if that awesome map in there is the one that I really want? What if Japan is the way that I really want to play, and then when it goes out of stock, these Days of Wonder expansions, you never get them again. So I've had them both on a wanted trade list for a long time and don't have them yet. So
all right, some honorable mentions for me. I had Formula D, which is another racing game. The cool hook with that one is that the gear, the higher the gear, the higher the numbers on the dice are. So, and a bigger die. So if you're in fourth gear, you're rolling maybe a 12-sided die that's got higher numbers on it, so you move farther and faster. And then the other one that I had, which is one of those kind of thinking outside of the box, is Scarface 1920, which there's a
interesting
big aspect of kind of having that influence and how much you can move your cars. You have a car, and you also have trucks to transport stuff, and even moving the police car in and out of other areas to kind of put pressure on the opponents. I think it is not the main aspect of the game, but it is a big aspect of kind of tabulating and seeing what you can do. So
that's
those
a great
are some
pull.
Honorable mentions for me. Any for you, Michael?
Yeah, I've got one. I'm going to say Martin Wallace car game, and you're going to say
that is I can see
zombies?
The cover. Oh, Hitsy Road.
Hitsy Road.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was thinking of a different one.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he's got a few. Martin Wallace, he's done a lot of them, I'm sure, but that's one that as I was putting the list together, it's like, yeah, I hope Doug hasn't traded that away or traded it into Noble Knight. I really want to play that one again. So it was an interesting list to put together because there are so many that I just want to come back to and replay.
Yeah, I'm just looking here because I feel like I don't want to be I'll cut it if I'm.
You got a car on the front and you're building routes and you're trying to escape zombies. Don't tell me that cars aren't involved in it.
Oh, I don't think there is in general because I think I cut it off my list. Incidentally, Martin Wallace designed a game called Automobile.
He did?
Yes.
Yes.
Which is what I thought you're going for.
Oh, he's got like 15 car games. Yeah, I mean, his list is just chucking full of them.
A lot of train games.
No.
I looked at Hit Z Road and I didn't feel like there was enough of where I felt like I'm in a car or the car.
Well, that's why it's honorable mention, Doug.
Yeah, it is a road trip, so incidentally,
yeah.
It qualifies.
Which you need to take in a car, typically.
Yes. Let us know what car games you enjoy. If we didn't mention them, we'd love to hear them in the Discord. You can subscribe and join that Discord at gameschooler.com/Discord. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Again, subscribe, like the videos on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and follow us on X at GameSchoolerU. Next week, we'll be taking a look at The Crew Family Adventures. So thank you for spending the last hour or so with us. We truly appreciate it.
Now, get out there and keep gaming.